this short bio, Tricia. Alright.
I'm glad I didn't understand, so.
Of course they did. Alright, so with this short bio, Tricia, this is your stage. This is absolutely yours. The audience is yours. And it is, we're waiting. Hegna, tell us about the world's going to change. With us, obviously.
Yes.
Raz jeszcze gromkie brawa na rozpoczęcie
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, I only have about 110 slides. So I would like to please invite everybody that is standing to please come closer because we have some empty seats here in the front and it's going to be a long ride. Okay? So first of all, let me add, before you actually start wondering where my accent comes from, I am Brazilian. Actually, I became Brazilian again after the Olympic Games when we won soccer, because for the last 2 years I became German after the World War. I just want to give you some context. And the Italian last name, like everything else in my life, is my husband's fault, and you can imagine like a Brazilian married to an Italian, every World Cup is a little bit tense. But we are a little bit passionate about soccer. It's a real pleasure to be here today. And to have the honor to actually celebrate together with you the dawn of a new era. As the local team has actually said, a year ago on October 12th, Dell announced that they were acquiring the EMC family of businesses. And on September 7th, a little bit more than a month ago, we actually became Dell Technologies. Dell Technologies is a set of strategic aligned businesses that have 7 members. As you saw, there were 7 men flying there, each one of them for a company. Dell, which is very much still focused on the consumer business. Dell EMC, which together is going to continue to innovate on the enterprise, and that's why we are here today to talk about Dell EMC leading edge technology innovations. Pivotal, which actually focus on the what we call cloud native applications, and we are going to talk a little bit about why those applications are different and why you need a different environment, and why we actually believe that development platforms as a service such as Cloud Foundry are fundamental for actually bring agility and speed to the development of applications. Then on the security piece, you have secured WOX and RSA, and we'll also talk a little bit about security on virtualization. We have the leader, which is VMware. And on the public cloud, we actually own VirtuStream, which delivers enterprise-grade public cloud for your ERP and mission-critical applications. So this is the Dell Technologies. We are now about 140, I'm sorry, I went backwards, 140,000 employees. Out of those 140,000, 30,000 are fully dedicated to services and consulting, and we invest annually together more than $4.5 billion in organic R&D to bring cutting-edge innovation, to serve you in new and innovative and exciting ways, and that's why we are here, to create technologies that will drive human progress, that will deliver innovation all the time to companies everywhere and organizations of all the time. This is Dell EMC, and welcome once again to the Dell EMC Forum. This doesn't count in the 100 slides that I had because this is only an abstract. So let's now start and understand, what do people mean when they actually say that we are embracing the digital era, that we are actually entering the digital era? Technology is actually transforming the way we work, we live, and think in an ever-increasing pace. And sometimes, we say that fish notice water last. If you don't mention to a fish that there is water around him, he will not notice. And what we are going to do now is to take a step back and look at what is happening around us. First of all, the incremental cost of adding intelligence to everything around you is nearly zero. It's approaching a value that is actually not significant, not meaningful. What does that mean? It means, for example, that it will almost have an immaterial cost to make an umbrella much smarter. And why would you like a smart umbrella? Why should you have a yellow umbrella? So here's the situation. When you wake up in the morning, your yellow umbrella is already awake. Your yellow umbrella synchronizes with your Outlook or your calendar or your Google Calendar or any calendar that you have. It knows exactly what you're going to do that day. And then it connects through the web to find out what the weather is going to look like in every single location that you are going to step on today. And based on that weather, it will ask you to take it with you when you go out. How? First, it will send you a text. It knows your GPS, it knows where you are, it knows if you are awake, it's very context aware. And when you pass through the door, the umbrella has a tantrum. It says, take me with you, take me with you. And if you don't take the umbrella with you, your insurance will know. Your health insurance will know. And if you catch a pneumonia, you won't be covered. And that's why the yellow umbrella matters. And the cost to add that piece of intelligence to your yellow umbrella, it's almost zero. Okay, number one. Number two, we talk about wearables. We have phones, watches that are intelligent. We have Fitbit and so on and so forth. Why should you limit that intelligence to bracelets on your left or right arm? There comes e-textile, which will cause you to have entire clothes that are smarter. They will know if your blood pressure is higher or lower in certain parts of your body, if your legs are swollen, if it's going to rain, it becomes impermeable, if it is too hot on the outside, it will actually make spaces between the threads, and so on and so forth. And enough about us, let's talk about the cows. You know why cows are so important? Because they are always outstanding in their fields. You know, take that home. So the cows actually have become an element of study, and you know why? We actually realized that not all milk are created equal. If you actually take one cow, not two cows, one cow, and you collect 200 ml of milk of that cow and you put in a cup, and if you actually collect another 200 ml of milk of that cow and you put in another cup, 200 ml, 200 ml sequentially taken out of the cow, if you actually compare those two cups of milk, they can highly differ on the amount of protein, on the amount of coagulation level, on the amount of particles, on everything. And why should you care? Well, if you actually take 2 cups of milk and they have different coagulation level, the milk with the highest coagulation level may yield 15% more cheese than the cup of milk with lower coagulation level. Can you imagine the profit margins? So a company in Israel actually created a milk parlor. You actually put all the cows in a single place, and when you milk the cow, you take samples of every 200 ml of milk you take from the cow. If the coagulation level of that milk is high, the next 200 ml get automatically routed to the cheese route. And if not, it gets automatically routed to the yogurt and raw milk route. Why do you care? Because the separation is done at the moment of production of the milk. They go to different buckets which get loaded on different trucks which follow different routes. And 15% more cheese is yielded without making any changes to the cow. Then, now if you have have a farm and you would like to produce more milk that is good for cheese, what do you do with the cow? How do you create an incentive, a motivation for the cow to produce a higher coagulation level milk? How do you do that? Well, there comes the pedometer. The pedometer is a device that you put in the cow's ankle, and you actually measure how much the cow is walking every day. You actually measure what part of the land the cow ate. Why? Because you know the GPS, and you know the cow spent way too much time standing on that particular area, and now you can measure the protein level, the protein intake of the cow. And the most fascinating ones is that the principle of never eat alone matters to the cow too. Cows that eat alone actually produce less coagulation level milk than the cows that eat in group. So if you want to increase the coagulation level, you have to create a social cow network. It's the cow book that has to be created. It's a completely new and different perspective in life. And that's what we talk about when we talk about the Internet of Things. It's the Internet of everything. Because everything is going to be measured, contextual, and everything is going to be location-oriented. But let me tell you about something else. Do you know what that is? Any guesses? By the way, from a proportion perspective, this is the size of a shoebox. Shoebox. We don't like shoes. I have many shoeboxes. I could have done it. Okay? Now, what is that? A group of people, young people. We call them the millennials, and I'm going to talk about them. The millennials, a group of young people, were sitting around and they said, I wonder if I actually put an iPhone attached to a shoebox, and I put inside that shoebox the engine of a rocket, if I could reach the height of a satellite. And then I could program the iPhone to actually take pictures of the Earth and then send it to me. And when it no longer has a battery, it dies. And how didn't you think about that? When you look at those shoeboxes, why didn't you think about that? And the issue is not just thinking, it's actually doing. They said, in fact, if I actually wrap the shoebox around with solar panels, it will last longer. The technical name for that is called a DOVE, okay? It's by a company named Planet Labs. You can look on the internet and see how many satellites NASA and all the space companies have actually sent. It's nothing compared to Planet Labs, which by the end of the year will have sent more than 100. And you know why? Because it's cheap. And you know why? Because it fails, they don't care. We know why? Because it has a short lifetime, they don't need to maintain, because they want to send more often because technology evolves and technology gets cheaper. You know, you may be familiar with Moore's Law. The idea of Moore's Law is that technology doubles, the performance of technology devices doubles every 2 years. And the cost actually decreases by half. So from that perspective, the net effect is that every 5 years, you have a 10 times effect. It means that what you have today will be 10 times better in 5 years from now, which will be 100 times better in 10 years from now, and it will be 1,000 times better in 15 years from now. So you cannot absolutely constrain your dreams. And by the way, if you're dreaming, why waste a dream? You actually have to be able to design technologies for tomorrow, because tomorrow everything is going to become cheaper, faster, and more possible. And by the way, if you think that 1,000 times improvement effect over a period of 15 years is good, it's fast, think again. Because Moore's Law now is called the slow motion. You are only moving at Moore's Law. Do you want a case in point? In 1989, the US government actually had a problem we didn't have a single genome sequence. Not a single genome sequence at all, okay? No human being had their genome sequenced. What does that mean? The genome has about 6.4 billion letters, and we wanted to know the 6.4 billion letter sequence of a single human being that defines its genome. So the US, which is a master at those kind of projects, actually created the first human genome project. It assembled hundreds of universities, I'm not joking, it assembled hundreds of universities and hundreds of scientists and said, each one of you is going to do a part of the genome. Of course, there was redundancy so that they could check for human errors and so on, but they split the genome in many pieces and then gave to each one of the university, and the project was supposed to last 15 years. It actually finished ahead of time. It finished in 13. It was supposed to cost 3 billion, it cost 2.7. One of the most successful scientific projects, collaborative, done in the history of humankind.